Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Addict 2.0. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto gets a Doujutsu that lets him charm any woman and build harem, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Started 2 weeks ago on my least favorite day of the year, my birthday. Cringes. This tall woman with bright red hair down to her knees, huge in a black trimmed red kimono, started appearing in my dreams, and any dream she was in I'd remember perfectly, like it really happened. It was weird. Unfortunately, that was when the headaches started too. It felt like I had two kunai in my head stabbing me behind my eyes, but it would only last about 5 minutes after I woke up. That's where today started. As you can see, I'm thrashing in my bed, but not because of a nightmare. See? That woman I mentioned that appears in my dreams. I know it sounds weird, but it's like I have someone else in my head, and she's the biggest pervert I've ever met. Even if she isn't real. I gotta say though, she kinda grows on you. And she's been teaching me things about women, girls in particular. It was really weird at first because I didn't know any of it. So how I teach myself things I don't know. I never was big on thinking about stuff, so I just went with it. Hey, training is training, but I have to say I didn't see how any of this made me a stronger ninja, but I never turned down a chance to learn something new, even if I don't think it's useful at the time. You never know what you'll have to do on a mission. There was one other thing I hated about waking up lately, and it is a real pain, literally. Naruto flipped over from his back onto his stomach, and woke up with a scream. Quickly flipping onto his back, he flung the sheets away, sighed, adjusted himself, got out of bed, yanked his pajama bottoms down and kicked him off, then threw off the top. I don't care what the dream lady says, a 14-inch heart is not a blessing, it's a damn curse. Naruto grumbled, shuffled to the bathroom, did his business, showered, brushed his teeth, fixed his hair with his hands, it was naturally spiky, then got dressed and fixed a bowl of instant ramen for breakfast. Ramen, nature's perfect food. Naruto exclaimed happily as he ate it. 7:37 a.m., street. Naruto was walking toward the academy when he suddenly stopped and smiled. He just realized that he didn't have a headache that morning. In fact, he'd felt really good. He'd just been too tired to notice since he'd gotten used to it. Now with a little more spring in his step than usual, he continued walking. What he didn't notice was regardless of where he was looking, his eyes picked up, and his brain memorized, the location, outfit and build of every female in view that morning. He knew what they looked like right down to their measurements. Well, everything he could without actually seeing them. Had he actually thought about it, he'd know that. But thinking wasn't something he normally did a lot of. He preferred to go with the flow and just improvise as he went, which was something he did better than anyone else, but he could make a good plan if he wanted to, usually for a prank though. 8 a.m., academy, homeroom. As usual, when he walked in, he practically yelled, "Good morning," to the whole class and waved before heading to his seat. He didn't realize it until he sat down, but he'd clearly seen everyone's reaction. Shikamaru sighed and mumbled, "Troublesome." Choji smiled, Kiba laughed, Ino and Sakura gave him a brief annoyed glare, then went back to staring at Sasuke. He saw everyone, including a fairly new face he hadn't really noticed before. She smiled as her eyes lit up with happiness, then she blushed and put her head down. She was the only girl in class that was happy to see me. Why haven't I ever noticed her before? Besides Ayame-chan, she's the only girl in Konoha that likes me. How the hell did I not see her before? Naruto thought, confused and annoyed at himself for missing someone that could be his friend, and it was a girl. She's kinda cute too. Naruto thought. Hinata Hyuga, Iruka said as he called off names. Hinata Hyuga? She sure isn't like the other Hyugas I've met. They wouldn't smile to save their life, but she only seems to smile when she looks at me. Single quote. Naruto thought, then realized something he never would have before and smiled. She has a crush on me. Now I have to be her friend, maybe even her boyfriend. As much as most adults hate me, Hiyashi would flip if I started dating his oldest daughter. That'd be the best prank ever. Naruto thought and got a big foxy grin on his face. Naruto turned his head slightly so he could just see her, and waited. He only had to wait 10 minutes before he saw her staring at him again, a dreamy look in her white eyes. He, accidentally, dropped his pencil on the floor on her side. After leaning down and picking it up, he decided to give her a big, "I like you," smile, looking right in her eyes. When he did, he was so focused on being charming he missed the subtle warm feeling in his eyes from his chakra, only seeing the stunned look on her face and little twinkle in her eyes. "Hi," he said in his nicest voice, then turned back toward Iruka. Lunch. Naruto walked out into the courtyard to the big tree to eat his lunch, a fresh box of shrimp ramen from Ichiraku's dropped off by Ayame. They were the best. It cost him a little extra of his allowance from the old man to have them delivered to the academy every day for lunch, but it was so worth it. He sat in the shade under the big tree and smiled. "Wanna join me, Hinata?" he asked, not looking at anyone. He didn't know why, but she'd followed him around since homeroom like some puppy, even from class to class, and he knew she wasn't in some of them, but what really amazed him was that no one seemed to notice her. It was like she was invisible. He was sneaky, but her stealth was incredible. She didn't make a sound, even in the grass, and how she could just blend into the background was like some high-level jutsu. He wished he could do that. Hinata stepped out from behind the tree, the same big smile on her face from homeroom. She gave him a small bow and sat next to him. "Thank you, Naruto. How'd you know I was there?" she asked calmly. Naruto chuckled. "You've been following me around like a puppy since homeroom. No one else seemed to notice you though. Does that happen a lot?" Hinata nodded immediately. "Do you like me, Hinata?" Naruto asked as he opened his box of hot ramen. Hinata blushed brightly but nodded immediately. "Hi, I love you, Naruto. I have since I was little and first saw you in the park." Naruto froze. Even he knew someone as shy as she obviously was never could have just said that so easily. He looked in her big white eyes and saw something almost familiar about that twinkle. "Why did you tell me that?" "Because you asked me. I'll do anything you want me to, Naruto. May I call Kun?" Hinata asked, still blushing slightly. "Sure," Naruto said. "This is weird. She's acting like she's in a genjutsu. But no student could do a genjutsu like this. We aren't even genin yet." Naruto suddenly sat straight up as it hit him. Did I do that to her? But if I did, how? I don't know any genjutsu. Naruto thought. Is something wrong, Naruto-kun? You're usually half done with your ramen by now. Hinata asked gently. "Oh, I was just thinking. Do you know where I live?" Naruto asked, then she nodded. "Would you meet me there about 4 o'clock? "Hi, I'd love to," Hinata said happily. "Good. I don't want you getting in trouble, so would you not follow me around to my classes?" Hinata pouted for a moment. "Okay, Naruto-kun, if that's what you want. Do you still like me?" "Of course I do. We're friends, right?" Naruto said, and saw her face lit up with joy. "We better eat. There's nothing worse than cold ramen," Naruto said, then laughed, broke out his chopsticks and stared to eat. Hinata sat out and opened a sushi plate. 3:54 p.m., Naruto's apartment. He'd raced home as fast as he could, cleaned up the apartment so it at least looked decent. Nothing he could do about the old, worn furniture or the stains, but they were basically clean now. He'd just finished a quick shower and was getting dressed. He'd been thinking about it since lunch, and had a small headache to prove it, but there was no other reason she was acting like that. She had to be under some kind of genjutsu. Naruto sat in the side of his bed to put his socks on when everything went black and he suddenly found himself in a sewer, but it was strangely a lot cleaner than you'd expect a sewer to be. Hoping he wasn't possessed by a ghost, the only thing he was really afraid of, he followed the sewer down 2 long tunnels and around 2 corners, ending up in a huge room the size of his apartment building, On the far wall was a cage door that went wall to wall, and from the floor to the ceiling, it was very intimidating. "Hello Naruto, we need to talk," a female voice said. Naruto recognized the voice immediately. It was the redhead from his dreams, looked arrogant and saw her step out of the shadows on the other side of the cage, her red eyes glowing for a moment as she appeared. "Am I dreaming?" "You aren't dreaming, well, not in the way you mean. This is your mindscape, all shinobi can do this. I can enter your dreams, but I can't leave this cage without your permission, but I promise I won't leave this room." "May I leave my cage and explain what's going on?" she asked, and smiled when he nodded, then stepped out between the huge bars. "Thank you. I can't tell you my real name yet, so for now just call me KY-chan. You know that seal on your stomach? That's what keeps me locked up inside you, but I won't hurt you, I promise. I was sealed inside you to help you. You're right about Hinata. She is under a kind of genjutsu, but it isn't dangerous. I awakened your bloodline limit. You inherited this ability from your father, but his didn't fully awaken. That's what those headaches were the last 2 weeks. I was doing that. I'm sorry it hurt so much, but that's a side effect and there was nothing I could do about it. Please wait until I'm finished before asking questions. Thank you Naruto. Your ability is a genjutsu type doujutsu unlike any other. Its main purpose is to charm women and bend them to your will, and though it will work on men at the basic level, I don't recommend doing that until you can control the effect it has, otherwise it could have an effect I know you won't like. With my help it can be developed to do many other things, but it will take you 4 or 5 years at least to master it, if you'll let me train you. Once you master it, whatever other abilities it may give you is up to you to develop, as I only know so much about it. KY said. Naruto was really excited at this news, but for once was restraining himself. He knew very little about genjutsu, and he sure didn't want to risk hurting anyone. After a few minutes of thinking he composed himself and had a few questions. So I have to look them in the eyes to use it? He asked, and she nodded. Okay. That'll be easy. So any girl I use this on will do anything I want? He asked, and again she nodded, which made him smile. Does it matter how strong they are? Would it work on someone stronger than me, like a Junin? Hi. How strong or skilled she is doesn't matter because of how it works. Remember what you were thinking and how you felt when you looked at Hinata after picking up your pencil. That's basically how you activate it. It'll get easier with practice. KY said. Naruto nodded, smiled deviously and vanished. I may regret what I was forced to do 10 years ago and help him be the next Hokage. That doesn't mean I can't turn him into the biggest pervert in the last 1,000 years. The queen of the tailed beasts has to have some fun. Besides, I haven't had in thousands years. I'd be his slave forever if he'd just let me out and me. KY said with a big smile and returned to her cage laughing. 3:59 p.m. The real world. Naruto blinked a few times, finding himself sitting on his bed. He quickly finished getting dressed, and just as he left his bedroom there was a knock on the door. Playtime, Naruto said excitedly, fast walked to the door, composed himself, and opened it with a smile. Hello Naruto-kun, it's 4 o'clock. May I come in? Hinata said politely. Naruto let her in, closed the door and led her to the couch where they sat, Hinata on his right. So you really love me Hinata? Hinata blushed and smiled. Hi. With all my heart. I could never even talk to you until today. Then you talked to me in class and I felt different, stronger. I usually faint when I get close to you, but I'm not anymore. Naruto smiled a little bigger. He knew why, now. He really wanted to have her do some of the things KY-chan had showed him in his dreams, and if that was any other girl he would have, especially Sakura who he had a small crush on. He didn't want to force Hinata. He just couldn't do that to a girl that really liked him. For face and hair she was as cute as Sakura. Something about different colored hair he found really exciting. Sakura's pink hair was the rarest. Hinata's blue hair was almost as beautiful, though she was from a big clan so it was normal for them. The other thing he'd really started to notice no girl in class had yet, well, not like the older girls and women he spied on recently. Since we're alone now, is there anything you want to do or ask me? 1,000 thoughts ran through Hinata's mind at once. Inside she was dancing wildly at being able to talk alone with Naruto, and now he was asking her what she wanted. There's a few things I want to ask you. I've watched you spying on other girls in class and women on the street, and you look at certain ones differently. I've wondered what do you like about them that's different from the rest that makes you like them, and is it something I have or can do so you'd look at me that way? Well, yes there is. I like long hair, especially if it's a different color than normal, like Sakura's, but I do kinda like your hair because it's blue. Naruto said. Hinata touched her short hair with her right hand. It barely reached her neck, it wasn't long like Naruto-kun liked. That made her a little sad, but she smiled when he said he liked her blue hair. Would you like me to grow it long, Naruto-kun? That'd be great. I'd love to see how you looked with long hair, but if you did the other guys would notice you, and you'd get really popular like Ino and forget all about me just like everyone else. Naruto said and gave her a small sad pout. I'd never forget about you, Naruto-kun, you're the only boy I ever want to be with. Hinata exclaimed after her initial shock at his statement, then remembered something. What else do you like about them? Hinata asked, almost demanding. This is too easy. Naruto thought. There is, but you'll think I'm a pervert. Naruto said. No I won't, whatever it is just tell me, is it their clothes, something special you like, how they walk, please, tell me what it is. Hinata said. I like big. Naruto said genuinely a little nervous, this was the one thing she couldn't change or do for him. Every girls in his class was either flat or small. Ino was the boggest girl in any of his classes and she was only a big B cup as best he could figure from looking at her, and she wore tight clothes. If not for KY-chan he wouldn't even know about bra cup sizes. Really? So you wouldn't think that a girl our age with big was weird, or a freak or something and make fun of her? Hinata asked. Naruto's eyebrows went up in surprise, he hadn't expected this. No, I wouldn't. If there was a girl like that at the academy I'd do anything to be her boyfriend, and keep all the other boys away from her. Hinata suddenly stood up, still facing him, and in a single, fast, fluid move unzipped her oversized jacket and held it wide open. Naruto's eyes got as big as saucers, his jaw dropped, his nose bled from both nostrils, then his eyes rolled back in his head and he fainted. He heard his name being called by a soft, female voice as he slowly opened his eyes. What happened? He asked and heard giggling. You fainted, Naruto-kun, you were really cute too. Hinata said, smiling. Naruto blinked a few times, then sat up as it came back to him what happened, and he blushed slightly as a huge smile crossed his face. He took a deep breath and let it out. Hinata-chan, take off your jacket. Hinata nodded, opened her jacket she was holding closed and laid it over the nearest arm of the couch. She had on a long-sleeved black shirt that was 2 sizes too small and made of a stretch fabric, she had to so she wouldn't bounce. Naruto looked in shock, closed and rubbed his eyes then looked again to be sure he saw right. He could tell Hinata didn't have anything on under her shirt, but he doubted there was anything that would hold her. Her shirt was literally stuffed from her upper chest down to about her navel, and shoulder to shoulder. Do you want to see them, Naruto-kun? No one knows my secret but you. Hinata said. Naruto nodded, grinning like a perverted idiot. He could feel his 9 turning into 14 in his right pant leg. Hinata smiled happily as she blushed. She was as embarrassed as always, but for some reason she didn't even feel lightheaded like she usually did. She turned her back to him. She wanted to show him all at once, teasing him just felt wrong. She quickly pulled her shirt up and over her head, then pulled her arms from the sleeves and tossed her shirt onto her jacket. You won't faint again, will you, Naruto-kun? No way, Hinata-chan, I promise. Naruto said excitedly. He knew from KY-chan he could just make her totally strip, but letting her think it was her idea was fun. He didn't really know her, but she'd loved him for years, while Sakura and the other girls either ignored or insulted him and fawned all over that jerk Sasuke because he was from a big clan. He didn't even talk to him. If he had every girl in Konoha chasing him, he'd be good to every one of them. And over. Naruto, I almost forgot to tell you something. If you want to do everything I showed you with Hinata or anyone else, you don't have to worry about the consequences I mentioned, until you wanted to. I suggest waiting until you have your own home and money. KY said. Thanks KY-chan. Naruto thought to her. Ready Naruto-kun, here I am. Hinata said, crossed her arms over her chest to hold them down, turned around facing Naruto, pausing a moment so they didn't swing or bounce, then moved her arms. What do you think? Hinata asked nervously, amazed she could do this so easily. Naruto leaned forward, bug-eyed and slack-jawed for a moment. Wow. Hinata-chan, they're huge, Naruto said with a big smile. Hinata saw the look on his face and smiled proudly. I'm an H-cup Naruto-kun. I checked our clan's medical records. I developed so early because of our laws about marriage and preserving the Byakugan. According to our records in runs in my family, on mom's side. You should see mom, her are bigger than mine, but she hides them like I do. Hinata said, a happy smile on her face when she talked about her mother. Naruto nodded. Wow, I'd love to meet her, Hinata-chan. Naruto asked. Hinata nodded. I'd like that. Mom would like you. I think my little sister Hanabi-chan would too. How about tomorrow for dinner? Naruto stood. That'd be great, Naruto said with a smile, his mind already planning what do to them. Hinata smiled. Naruto-kun, would you like to play with my? Naruto smiled warmly at her. I'd love to, Hinata-chan. Would you like to kiss me? Hinata smiled widely. Yes. Very, very much. Do you know about making out, Naruto-kun? I've been taught how to be a good wife for when I get married, and how to make my husband happy in bed. I'd really like to do that with you, Naruto-kun, to show you how much I love you. Mom said a woman can only truly show her beloved how much she loves him with her body. I'm supposed to be married first, but I don't want to marry anyone but you. I'd rather be disgraced in the eyes of my clan than marry anyone but you. Will you have me? Hinata asked nervously. After KY-chan gave him a few suggestions to control himself and let Hinata lead, for now, it'd be better for them both and she'd be his alpha, as KY-chan called it, his number one girl. He agreed, and at the moment, any thoughts of other girls had been obliterated, even his crush on Sakura was basically dead. Hinata was his most precious person from now on. A little. I know we should go to my bedroom, Naruto said and lead the very happily smiling Hinata into the bedroom. This is a nice bedroom, Naruto-kun, it's kinda dirty, but I like it. My room is like living in the hospital, yours looks like someone lives here, it feels cozy. Hinata said as she looked around. Thanks, Hinata-chan, I do my best. But when you get broken into as much as I do, Naruto said. Hinata gasped in shock. Broken into? You mean people break in and steal your things? Hi. Usually twice a week someone will break in and trash everything. I don't have anything valuable to steal though. I've bought new locks for the door and windows 3 times already this month. It get really bad around my birthday. I usually camp out for a couple days before and after. The first couple years I'd tried running, fighting back, setting traps, but a group of people would still catch me and beat me for an hour or so. Naruto said casually. Hinata was shocked and horrified. When did it start? Do you know why? Can't anyone help you? Hinata asked. It started when I was 4 or 5, I think, after I left the orphanage. I lived on the street until I was 6 when the old man in the tower got me this place and a weekly allowance to live on, at least until I graduate the academy and can start earning my own money. Naruto said. Old man in the tower, You mean Hokage-sama? Hinata said. Yeah, once a month the old man takes me out for ramen or something. Naruto said casually. Hinata ran over to Naruto, who'd just shut and locked the shutters as they talked, wrapped her arms around him in a big hug. Naruto smiled and hugged her back. Don't worry about it, Hinata. I'm used to it. They can't catch me anymore, I'm too fast now. Forgot about those stupid people. I don't wanna see you sad anymore, okay, my Hinata Haim. Hinata's eyes got as big as saucers. He called my his princess. Hinata thought. A huge smile crossed her face as a warm feeling filled entire being. That's better. Since you shared your secret with me, before we do anything I want you to know my secret and be sure you want to do this. Naruto said, moved over by his bed, facing Hinata, then in a single fast move yanked his pants and boxers down to his ankles, his semi-firm, 14 inches hanging between his thighs. Hinata's knees buckled briefly, but she didn't fall. Dear Kami, Hinata said, stunned, then gathered her courage and copied his move, revealing her smooth. I don't know if I can take you, Naruto-kun, you're much bigger than the pictures, but I'll do my best. 6:44 p.m. I'm still tingling, Naruto-kun, that was the best day ever, I've never been so happy. Hinata said dreamily, a huge smile practically embedded on her face as she kissed him passionately at the front door. Will you meet me at the front gate tomorrow morning and walk me to homeroom? Of course, anything for you angel cakes. Naruto said and squeezed her huge through her jacket, which made her moan with pleasure. Hinata giggled at his nickname for her. And don't forget to have some blueberry pie with your cake. Hinata said coyly and giggled again. Always. Naruto said, dropped his right hand and rubbed Hinata between her legs, which sent shivers of pleasure through her body. They kissed again, then Hinata left to head home before the sun went down. A few minutes later, Naruto was sitting on his couch thinking about all the things he did with Hinata, how she could take every inch of him in her mouth and how incredible she felt, especially his favorite sliding it between her huge while she sucked the end, and he's done it 6 times. Then his stomach rumbled, it sounded like thunder. Oh Kami, I'm hungry, that's even more exhausting than training. But definitely more fun, Naruto said, then smiled. There was only one cure for a hunger this powerful. Ichiraku ramen. Naruto was out the door in seconds and running down the street at top speed. They didn't close until 8, but he wanted the whole hour to stuff himself with ramen until he couldn't move. As he ran down the street towards his last turn, he could almost taste that ramen. He was thinking that today would be the best day ever, or it would have been if he'd watched where he was going. What the? She said from a very undignified position on her butt. Naruto looked to his left and saw a full dango stick roll to the curb and fall through the grating into the sewer. As he sat up, he knew he'd have to apologize and buy someone some new dango. Then he sat up and saw who he crashed into. He looked and saw long legs, a brown skirt bunched up around her waist, the basically transparent purple panties currently wedged between large, smooth lips in an overgrown purple bush, a mesh shirt over large, and a wide open trenchcoat. She had an odd necklace on and wild purple hair. He didn't know who she was, but from the key she was putting out he had a feeling she was a kunoichi. Then he saw her left sleeve was bunched up around her elbow and a scary snake tattoo on her forearm. Then he heard the almost feral growl. I waited all day for that dango, it was their last one, and you just dumped it in the sewer. I'm gonna rip your head off, you little shitstain, she said with a lot of anger. Naruto swallowed nervously, he hoped she wasn't who he thought she was. Anko Mitarashi? He asked, and she nodded as a sadistic smile appeared on her face. Then I guess an apology won't help. He swallowed again when she slowly shook her head no. I am SOOOO. Naruto thought, the crowd backing away from them, most terrified, didn't even register in his mind. Could I bribe you with dango to let me go and forget about this? Anko knew she was fully exposed, but modesty was never a trait she had, so she didn't care about that. She did care that her absolute favorite flavor of dango, that she'd waited all day to get, was gone forever, and they wouldn't have any more for several days because they were between supply shipments. If there was anything she couldn't forgive, it was taking away her dango. Even the Anbu knew better than to mess with her dango fix. You have 5 seconds to run, then I'm going to give you the beating of your life, and if you're very lucky I won't castrate you. 5, 4. Naruto's stomach roared again. He whimpered, leapt to his feet, turned back toward home and took off at top speed. Anko smiled. Oh good, this'll make it more fun. Anko said, was up a moment later and took off after the blonde kid that ran into her faster than he was running, but not her top speed. She preferred to let her prey sweat in fear as she hunted them. It was one of the few traits she'd picked up from her former sensei that she enjoyed. It was mean, but she really enjoyed emotionally torturing people, which is why she worked with Ibiki as his top interrogator. As she raced down the street after him, something in the back of her mind was quietly nagging her. Something about that kid was familiar, like she should know who he was. His face especially was very familiar. He reminded her of someone. Naruto raced down the side street, turned right onto Main Street toward the front gate for a block, then weaving through a crowd went left down a side street. A quick glance back told him she was still behind him and slowly closing. He smiled briefly as he got close and saw her outside. He slowed and stopped near her. You have to help me fast, please, she'll be here any second. I'll do anything, she's gonna kill me. Naruto begged. Ino glared at him curiously. They weren't friends, but she didn't hate him either. Having him owe her she did like. Who's after you? Ino asked curiously. Naruto glanced back and saw her about 100 yards away. Enko Mitarashi. Naruto exclaimed, half panicked. Ino's eyes bugged out and her jaw dropped. She'd heard about Enko from her dad who worked with her in Anbu headquarters. Enko scared even him. Enko was one of those people that lived for revenge. She was an A- ranked bitch, he said once, though he, and them after a warning, would, and should, never repeat that unless you wanted your gender permanently changed. Enko Mitarashi. I'm a bitch, but I'm not stupid, I'm outta here. Ino said, and ran inside her house, almost slamming the door behind her. Damn, I guess she's heard of Anko. Naruto said, looked around a moment, leapt up to the roof and headed for the wooded section of the park. 9:51 p.m., rooftop, business district. Naruto was leaning against the wall, near exhaustion, drenched in sweat, and breathing heavy, his stomach twisted in knots from hunger and fear, and the single light on the wall above him illuminated an 8-foot circle he was at the edge of. Beyond it was almost pitch black. The worst part was just entering the light with a sadistic smile on her face, tired but nowhere near as tired as he was. She was only a little sweaty. He whimpered. I'll give you credit, brat. You've got a hell of a lot of stamina for an academy student, and you're fast too. I actually had to try to keep up with you, and if I'm right from that growling, you were already tired and starved when you bumped into me. Lemme guess, Ichiraku's. Anko said, twirling a kunai in her right hand. Naruto nodded. Yeah, it's my favorite. Naruto said between breaths. I haven't had this much fun in weeks, so I'll cut you a break. I won't break any bones. Anko said, pausing to see the hope appear on his face, then his despair as she crushed it. Before I kick you and leave you tied up on Main Street in your underwear. I want your name. I take my revenge seriously. I always get their name before I take 'em out, but you're lucky enough to be one of the few who'll still be alive tomorrow and still have your balls, and I have castrated brats your age, girls too. Lucky nay. Naruto half mumbled, and heard Anko laugh. She'd obviously heard him. He took a few deep breaths, stood tall and faced her. He wasn't going down like a scared kid. My name, you crazy bitch, is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm not going down without a fight. Anko smirked and raised her eyebrows slightly. She was impressed. He has a big pair for a brat, I'll give him that. He knows he's and still won't give up. He'll probably even fight back. reminds me of myself when I was his age, lil shit is fearless. Oh it. Anko thought, then walked up to him with her trademark sadistic smile, but it suddenly changed to mild surprise as his name finally clicked in her mind. That's why you look so familiar, you're the. Anko said and stopped herself before she said it, even she could be executed for saying it. Demon brat. I've heard what people call me, go ahead and say it. Just get it over with, you bitch. You won't be the first person to beat me to a bloody pulp and you won't be the last, so bring it on or get the out of my face, I'm done running. Naruto said fiercely. Anko was genuinely surprised. He wasn't just being brave, he was really getting pissed off and was ready to really fight her tooth and nail. Then she felt it and saw his blue eyes turn red and his pupils turn into vertical slits. He was once thing, but fighting Kyuubi could get way out of hand very quickly. Whoa, calm down brat. I was just with you, I wasn't really gonna hurt you, just scare you to keep my representative up. Look, I know about your friend. Anko said calmly and touched her stomach as she said, friend. Naruto froze. How do you know about KY-chan? I just started dreaming her 2 weeks ago. Naruto said. Anko dropped her kunai in shock, that caught her totally off guard. Did you say, KY-chan? Anko asked, and Naruto nodded. Naruto, use your Kyoshugan on her. KY said. What? Naruto thought to her. Use your bloodline limit, charm her, I'll explain later, just do it. KY said. Unlike Naruto, she saw the potential of this situation. Naruto closed his eyes a moment, focused his mind and emotions as best he could, focused some chakra in his eyes, which was harder than he thought, doing it on purpose, then opened his eyes and looked right into Anko's with everything he had left and tried to put a thought behind it. Anko saw him close his eyes a moment, unsure what he was doing, but she hoped suppressing Kyuubi. Whether Kyuubi was male or female didn't matter at the moment, she didn't want to have to deal with the most powerful of the tailed beasts inside Konoha's walls and have to explain to Sarutobi why this was her fault. He was the only person she actually feared and truly respected, she'd be crushed if she lost his respect. She saw him open his eyes and for a moment she'd swear she saw his eyes actually sparkle, and then something came over her as she heard a voice in her head tell her she loved him more than life itself and had an irresistible desire to obey him. Everything else was forgotten. Naruto saw her face go blank for an instant, then she smiled at him like Hinata did and saw a little sparkle in her eyes. A smile tried to appear on his face but he pushed it back. He had to know if he'd done it on purpose this time. He took a deep breath and sighed. On your knees, bitch. Naruto said, hoping she'd obey and not kick him in the balls, or worse. When Anko dropped her knees, he let a huge smile cross his face. He stepped closer and grabbed her throat with his right hand. If I wasn't so tired I'd you like that you are, but for now you're gonna give me your panties. From now on I own you. Until I know what to do with you, Anko, you live only to please me. Get up, pick me up and take me to your place, I need some sleep. In the morning I want a big breakfast ready when I get up. If you do a god job I'll let you suck my before I go to academy tomorrow. Naruto commanded as best he could considering how tired he was. He released her and she immediately stood, yanked her panties off, handed them to him, scooped him up, ran to the ledge and leapt off, a huge smile on her face. Naruto swallowed the bite of sausage, then tried the hash browns, and a strip of bacon, and washed it down with some orange juice. He wanted to make her squirm for what she put him through last night, but she was standing there, totally, and looked like a little girl hoping for her father's approval of what she'd done. He didn't know that feeling very well, only having felt it once with the old man, but he knew what it looked like, and she was filled with hope that he'd like her food, and fear that he'd hate it. It's pretty good, definitely better than I could do. After I finish eating you can give me a blowjob. Naruto said, then returned her smile. I'm just too nice sometimes. He thought. 7:17 a.m. Naruto was sitting on the edge of his bed, leaned back, head lolled back, braced on his shaking arms trying to stay up. Hinata had given him his first, and she was great at it, he thought at the time, but compared to what Anko was doing to him, Hinata had been chewing on it like a starving dog with a new bone. He had to have her teach Hinata how to do this, and everything else she knew about. Unlike with Hinata, it had only been about 2 or 3 minutes, he was harder than a kunai and ready to explode, which he did a few moments later down her throat, and it was much bigger than anything he'd done with Hinata, and she swallowed every drop. He collapsed on the bed the instant he finished. It only took him a minute to fully recover. "Oh Kami, that was incredible, you have to teach Hinata-chan to do that, you're way better than she is," Naruto said, almost yelling the first part. "Hinata, Hyuga, is she your girlfriend?" Anko asked. "Hi, she is my girlfriend, and no matter how many girlfriends I have, she's my first and best. You'll obey her like you would me, and you won't tell anyone about me and Hinata-chan, about us, or anything we do, and if anyone asks you about last night, tell them I got away from you," Naruto said. "Hi, Naruto-san. Anything you want. May I be your girlfriend too?" Anko said, the second part nervously. "I'll think about it, but I do want you to train me. I want to be the top student by the time I graduate, and if you're as good as you seem to be, you can make me stronger. Oh, and if I do make you a girlfriend, Hinata is my alpha and will be my wife when I get older," Naruto said. Anko smiled. "Hi, I'd be honored to make you my apprentice, even unofficially. You want to start after academy?" Naruto nodded. "Now clean up and get dressed, I don't want anyone to see me leave here. Oh, and act normal when I'm not around or people can see us," Naruto said, then started putting his clothes from last night on. Anko had washed them. 7:48 a.m., Academy. Naruto walked through the main gate into the academy courtyard with Hinata at his right side, both were smiling and holding hands. "Swings?" he asked her, and she nodded happily. He walked her to the swings, and though he didn't directly look, he could see everyone's face as they were all staring at them by the time he reached the swings and they both sat in two next to each other. The shock on their faces made him want to laugh, boast, and a dozen other things just to rub it in their faces that the dead last had landed the Hyuga princess. It took most of his willpower to resist his urge to remove her jacket and feel her up under her shirt while passionately kissing her right there in front of everyone. He knew Hinata would let him do it, and more, but KY-chan had been talking to him from the time he left Anko's until just before they entered the academy, with suggestions on how to handle this, some of which was advice for Hinata that he'd passed on to her. He had to be clever and use his head, don't overdo it and show off. He had to let them come to him and charm the girls when he could get them alone for a minute. Within a minute, Naruto and Hinata were the hot topic of the academy, the big question being how did a baka like him land the Hyuga princess. A few minutes later, Naruto watched Sakura and Ino storm over to them, specifically Hinata, and stopped in front of her, yelling stuff about how could she hang out with him and how they needed to get her away from him and talk some sense into her. What happened next made the courtyard go dead silent and him almost fall out of his swing as he barely held his composure. As Ino and Sakura stepped closer to grab Hinata's arms and pull her away, she drove her right foot, toes first, dead into the heart of Sakura's girlhood with her full power. Her eyes bugged out, her mouth opened in a silent scream of blinding agony as she went up on her toes, then she crumpled face down on the ground, butt up in the air and both hands pressed between her legs. Ino looked down at Sakura in horrified shock at what Hinata had just done to her, then her B-cups exploded in pain and her entire body basically locked up. She then felt her top pulled up and the bottom half in front tucked into her shirt collar, leaving her bare fully exposed because she never wore anything under it. Hinata then quickly removed her belt from her skirt, spun her around facing the entire courtyard, pulled her arms up behind her back and tied her forearms together with her own belt, then pushed her to her knees. If you or Sakura ever try anything like that again, or you try to cover those pathetic little bumps you call, and I'll do much worse next time. I'll see you in cherry pie in homeroom, nipples. Hinata whispered in Ino's ear. Come on Hinata-chan, let's get to homeroom, the first bell is going to ring in a few minutes anyway. Naruto said, put his right arm around her shoulder and walked her, slowly, towards the front door. Anyone in front of them stepped aside. Many of the girls who did hunched forward a little and covered their chest and or girlhood, with their arms and hands. That was so funny, that was a great idea for Hinata-chan, they won't mess with her again. I wish she could have done all of it though. Naruto thought. KY smiled proudly. My pleasure Naruto-kun, they needed a good lesson, and I wanted to see them hurt and humiliated. Naruto chuckled and hugged Hinata a little tighter while he thought about charming them like he had Hinata and Anko. 8 a.m., homeroom. Naruto walked into homeroom with Hinata, and just as they had since the swing incident, everyone went silent and stared at them as he walked to his seat, Hinata giving him a quick kiss before separating before they walked down their row to their seats, hers being the next row up. He looked around, stopping briefly at Dog Girl, as Sakura and Ino called her, who was smiling ear to ear and shaking slightly because she was holding in her laughter. I'll have to invite her to join us for lunch. Naruto thought. Uruka, who was wondering why everyone was acting so odd that morning, was starting the F's in roll when the dirty and red-faced Sakura and Ino walked in and went to their seats without a single word. He stopped when he saw the reaction they got from everyone. He knew both girls very well and something had definitely happened before class. Ino, Sakura, I won't mark you late this time but I want to see both of you after class. Both girls nodded. Thinking fast, Naruto quickly wrote a short note and folded it up, then carefully got the attention of the girl in front of him. Pass that to Ino, he whispered to her. She smiled nervously and nodded. He watched her carefully pass it along to Ino, who read it, then half-turned, looking up at him and gave a small nod. Lunch. Courtyard. Naruto just sat down with Hinata under the tree in the smaller courtyard everyone used for lunch when he heard a somewhat familiar, loud girl's voice call his name. He looked up from his half-open ramen box and saw her. Black pants, a heavy, dark gray coat, wild black hair to her shoulders, and a small white dog peeking out of the front below her chin, a red fang mark on her cheeks below each eye. He smiled. She was actually louder and more annoying than Ino and Sakura combined, but didn't have the attitude and was definitely a lot more fun from the way she'd always acted, more like he was before his last birthday when he met KY-chan. Kiba Inuzuka, right? Naruto asked. You got it Blondie, that was funny as hell what you did to those two bitches Hinata, you mind if I sit next to you Naruto? To be honest, I'd rather be your friend than end up like them. That, and no one else will eat with me. Kiba said. Hinata looked at Naruto, then smiled. Hi, that'd be great Kiba-chan, if you don't mind me calling you, Chan, Hinata said politely. Kiba sat down on Naruto's right side, opposite Hinata. That's fine Hinata-chan, you're a lot tougher than I thought. I never thought you could do what you did to them. Kiba said, then raised her head slightly, sniffed the air a couple times then looked at them and smirked. She glanced around quickly then leaned closer to Naruto. Who was it? Kiba asked quietly, a big sly smirk on her face. Naruto froze. Who was what? Naruto asked trying not to show how nervous he was. Oh come on, I'm an Inuzuka, my nose is better than any normal dog's, you have another girl's scent on you, wait, make that two, but the other one is two versions of the same scent, in fact it smells like. Kiba said. Don't say it. Naruto interrupted. First, promise me you won't tell anyone. Naruto asked. I promise, an Inuzuka never breaks their work. Mom would kick me from one side of Konoha to the other if I did. Kiba said and flinched. Naruto nodded and sighed. He thought about just charming her, but wanted to get to know her first, maybe he wouldn't have to. Hinata and I have done more than hold hands and kiss. There is someone else but I can't tell you who it is right now, I want to be sure I can trust you first. Kiba smiled and winked at Hinata, then sighed quietly. Okay. I can understand that. You don't want some strange new bitch sniffing around your pack and causing trouble. Akamaru barked. You're a needy lil bitch, but I love ya anyway. This is Akamaru, she's my partner. Kiba said, lifted her little white dog out of her coat and put her down. She laughed when Akamaru immediately ran and jumped up onto Naruto's chest and started licking his face. Akamaru suddenly stopped a moment, then looked at Kiba and barked. She says you have a lot more power than you're showing everyone. Kiba said. Then Akamaru barked again, but with a whimpering undertone. Now that's weird. What did she say? Naruto asked. She can sense things, like how strong someone is, which she did a minute ago about your power, but she also said you smell funny, not like anyone else, like a person in a. I know this is weird, but she said you kinda smell like a fox. She's never done that before. Kiba said, shook her head then took Akamaru off Naruto's chest. Does Akamaru smell KY-chan? But how, and why did she say I smell like a fox? Naruto thought. Make something up Naruto-kun, please. I'll explain everything later, I promise. KY said to Naruto from her cage. This was sooner than she expected. The Inuzuka dog sensing her was unexpected. I have a pet fox, I think she smells her on me. Naruto said, hoping he was a good enough liar to fool her. Cool. Is she a partner like Akamaru, like a nin fox? Kiba asked excitedly. She loved the idea of someone outside the clan having a ninja animal other than a dog. Can I see her? You said the fox was female, right? In Naruto's mindscape, KY was banging her head against the bars, cursing each time. He had to say a pet fox, didn't he? That might actually work, if this damn seal will allow it. KY said to herself. Yes, I call her KY-chan. Naruto said, trying to think of a way out of this growing lie, then heard the real KY-chan tell me her idea. I have some errands to run after academy, but you can meet me in the park at 5, in the clearing in the North Woods. Do ya know it? Naruto said. I do know it. That's awesome, thanks. We better eat before our food gets cold. Kiba said. 3:05 p.m., Academy main courtyard. Seeing that everyone was gone, Naruto walked out into the courtyard with Hinata and stopped. A moment later Sakura and Ino stepped out into the open from where they were hiding. Did you tell Iruka what happened? Naruto asked. He could see Hinata glaring at them. He'd told her between classes about the note. No. I said we crashed into each other and had a little argument, but we made up. I think he believed me. Ino said meekly as she continually glanced at Hinata nervously. Hinata leaned close to Naruto and whispered in his ear a moment. Hinata wants to strip both of you and send you home for everything you've done to me the last 4 years, but she'll forgive you both and even help you be popular again if you'll do one thing for us. Naruto said. Ino was still emotionally devastated. Her reputation had been destroyed. Both she and Sakura were laughingstocks now. Socially she wasn't even on the ladder, she was on the floor under it. What do we have to do? Ino asked. She normally wouldn't do this, but she was desperate to restore her image. It was her only chance at Sasuke. He'd never go out with it at the very bottom or the social ladder. That's easy. Starting tomorrow after academy, twice a week for the rest of the year you're both going to clean my apartment. Naruto said. Ino flinched, then glanced at Sakura a moment. That's not too bad. We can do that, and you'll both help us be popular again. Yes, we'll even be your friends. Oh, I almost forgot something. When you're cleaning my apartment, you'll both be. If that's a problem, I know Hinata would love to humiliate you both every day until you agree to do it. Naruto said with a big perverted smile. Ino and Sakura's eyes got big as saucers. They were shocked and horrified at the thought. Was it worth the alternative? Naruto was having a blast tormenting them and just couldn't wait any longer. He looked into Ino's eyes and gave her a charming smile as he thought, Kyoshugan. A moment later he saw the familiar twinkle her eyes, then she smiled happily. I accept, Naruto. I'd be happy to do that for you to be popular again. You will too, won't you, Sakura-chan? Ino said. Sakura looked at Ino, amazed at her sudden mood change. She'd never seen Ino change so fast. Then Naruto said her name. She looked at him. Their eyes met and suddenly a warm, happy feeling overcame her. She wanted to make Naruto happy, and suddenly also found him much better looking than Sasuke ever was. Of course I will. I accept, Naruto-kun. Oops. Is it okay if I call you Naruto-kun? She asked. Me too. Ino added. Of course you can. I'll see you in the morning, girls. Oh, wear something tomorrow. Naruto said, the last part as he started to walk away with Hinata. 3:45 p.m., Naruto's private training area. After seeing Hinata got home, telling Anko to plan out a training schedule for him and that they'd start tomorrow, he went to his private training spot he found a few years ago where he could train in secret. In other words, he was running back and forth across Konoha like a madman. Now he was talking to KY-chan, and what she just suggested almost blew his mind. You want me to do what? Naruto asked in shock. I know it sounds strange, but I think it'll work. Kiba is an Inuzuka. If I made a summoning contract for you, it wouldn't fool her. She'd know I was a summon. I have to be real, so you have to help me do this. I just need the 2 blood samples, I'll do the rest. And I think it'll help you as a ninja to have a partner, especially if we can learn some of their techniques in jutsu. Or charm her and hope her clan doesn't notice. KY said. Naruto let out a, why me, whining laugh of defeat. Okay, I'll do it. It could be fun having you out here instead of just in my head. You sure we can finish this before 5 o'clock? Naruto asked. I can, if you can catch one in the next 15 minutes. KY said. Oh, there's one about 100 yards that way, in the woods. I can't match the Inuzuka yet, but I can enhance your sense of smell enough to track it. 4:04 p.m. Naruto looked at the flat rock where he'd just put a dozen drops of his own blood infused with as much of KY-chan's chakra as he could handle. He thought it was weird to have 2 chakras, but it explained why he had so much of it. He Alwasi knew that. He held his kunai tip down over his blood and let the fresh fox blood drip into it. He was glad he only had to make a small wound and get some blood and it would heal completely in a few days. He really didn't want to hurt it. And KY-chan had been very specific about that. She seemed to have some weird connection to foxes, and just the small wound he gave the vixen he caught upset her. She even shed a few tears, something he'd never seen her do before. As soon as the last drop hit, he pulled away the kunai and wiped it off. When he looked back at the small puddle of mixed blood, he was stunned by what he saw. It was actually growing. 4:58 p.m., Konoha Park, North Side Woods. Naruto had only been standing there a few minutes when he heard his name called. He turned and saw Kiba walking out of the trees into the field. It was only about 30 feet wide and 40 feet long, but it was enough space to train or play games in. He watched her walk over, Akamaru looking out of her coat as usual. So where is she? We've been really anxious to see her since lunch. I'm SOOO, not the patient type. This girl likes action. Kiba exclaimed. Naruto laughed. He was the same way. I know how you feel. I am too. KY-chan. Naruto said. A moment later, a red blur raced out of the tall grass and leapt up into Naruto's arms and licked his face. Kiba was startled for a moment. Wow, she's fast. You mind if I hold her? Check her out. My big sister Hannah is the vet, but foxes are similar to dogs, so I can give her a basic checkup, if you don't mind. Checkup. HMF. I'm in perfect health, dog bitch. You think I'd create a flawed body for myself? If that bitch knew I was Kyuubi no Kitsune, the 9-tailed beast and queen of demons, she'd piss her panties. Naruto might have a similar reaction though, but I have to tell him soon. and I hope minimize his reaction. If he shuts me out completely, I'm screwed. Kyuubi thought, annoyed at first, then nervous, all of it unheard by Naruto. Sure, I guess that'd be okay. I've never had her checked. You're the first person I've even told about her. Naruto said, knowing it was both a lie and true was cool and kinda confusing, then handed KY over to Kiba. Kiba took Akamaru out of her coat and put her on the ground before accepting KY from Naruto. Nice muscle tone, fur is smooth and soft so she's healthy, like the red too, nice and bright, shows off the white on her face and tail. Legs feel strong, and I know she's fast, claws are strong, sharp too. Kiba said, then put KY in her left hand and carefully checked her teeth. Teeth look good, eyes are bright, is that a seal on her stomach under her fur? Kiba said. No, she's always had that, I think it's like a birthmark or something. Naruto said, KY had told him about that and what to say if Kiba noticed it. Okay. Well, she looks Kiba said and suddenly screamed when KY jumped out of her hands and into her coat. She started jumping around trying to get KY out of her coat without having to take it off, but it wasn't working. Oh wow 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 wow, Kiba yelled, freezing in place. KY-chan, what are you doing? Are you hurting her? Naruto thought, obviously annoyed. A little, but she's okay, trust me, and watch what happens. Kyuubi said. Gritting her teeth, Kiba quickly and briefly glanced at Naruto, then unzipped her big coat and dropped it to the ground. A few moments later, KY jumped out of the large versus neck of her shirt, showing off her ample cleavage, and ran over to Naruto. That's how Akamaru sat in your coat so easy, you've got big tits. Naruto exclaimed. Kiba blushed. Yeah, all Inuzuka girls develop early. Please don't tell anyone. I don't want to be treated like some girly girl like those Sasuke fangirls. Huntsley, I don't see what's so great about him. He's an emotionless hole that wouldn't know a good joke if it kicked him in the balls. Kiba said. This could be fun. Naruto thought. I told ya, I knew as soon she held me close. She's no Hinata, but she'd give Anko a good run for her money. Kyuubi said. As long as you know, I might as well tell you everything. I'm an E-cup, which KY kinda scratched up a little. I have some ointment I can put on that'll heal the scratches in no time. Promise me you won't stare, get grabby to tell anyone, and I'll let you watch me put it on. Kiba said. Deal. Naruto said with a foxy grin, and he hadn't even charmed her. Akamaru, check the area. I don't want anyone else to see me. Kiba said. Akamaru barked and she watched her little dog run off into the trees. She'll be back in a minute. What about Hinata? If we're gonna hang out together, she'll find out about my tits. Can she keep this a secret too? And is she the jealous type? I don't want her thinking I'm showing you my tits too. Kiba said, a little nervous and worried, then was suddenly annoyed. What's so damn funny? Are you laughing at me? Kiba demanded. I'm not laughing at you, I swear, but just the thought that Hinata would be jealous of those of yours is just so ridiculous. Naruto said between laughs, but the last part it was obvious he was also half faking it to hide how nervous he was now. Kiba stared at him fiercely for a few moments, then her eyes opened wide and she gasped as Naruto's sudden change clicked in her mind. She knew what he almost said. I swear on my honor as an Inuzuka I won't tell anyone. Is Hinata bigger than me? Kiba asked, nervous but serious. Naruto clenched his jaw and fists a moment, then sighed. He began to seriously consider just charming her to make sure she didn't tell anyone. Naruto spiked his, not Kyuubi's, chakra to maximum for a moment as he glared at Kiba, which made her flinch. Hi, she's a lot bigger than you, and I promise you, Kiba, if you tell anyone about Hinata, KY-chan, or anything that could hurt or embarrass either of us, I'll kick your. Naruto said as coldly as he could. He really didn't want to do this, but he finally had someone in his life as precious to him as he was to her, and he wasn't going to let anyone hurt her in any way. Kiba took a more submissive pose. She was tough and loved a good fight, but she knew from experience the look of anger, and a cornered animal ready to kill. The second one definitely applied to Naruto right now, and just from what Akamaru said about him hiding his true power, and not knowing what he could do, this wasn't the time for her usual, tough bitch, attitude. Whoa, I promised I won't tell anyone, just calm down Naruto, I didn't mean to upset you. Kiba said calmly, in her best soothing voice she used with the dogs. Just then Akamaru came racing back at high speed and skidded to a stop in front of Kiba, ready to fight if she had to, but not acting aggressive enough to start a fight. It's okay Akamaru, relax. I just said something I shouldn't have. Kiba said and picked up Akamaru, petting her. Are we still cool, or did my big mouth get me in trouble again? Kiba asked seriously, but nervous and worried she'd just ruined her chances of having a real friend. Naruto glanced at KY-chan, then sent her over to Kiba where she walked around Kiba a few times, sniffing, then ran back to Naruto and jumped up into his arms. She's okay Naruto, she meant what she said, she's almost terrified she just ruined her chance to be friends with you, she already respects you a little. And she does have great tits. You did agree to my harem idea, and being an Inuzuka she has the pack instincts to follow her leader, you won't have to charm her for a couple years and she'd still follow you. She does has an attitude, but only to protect herself from abuse. She's just like their dogs, once we're friends she'll relax and show us the real Kiba. She's no alpha, but she's not submissive either, Kyuubi said. Naruto relaxed and smiled. Okay. Sorry if I scared you, but I've been alone most of my life and am kinda protective of everything I care about, especially my friends. Kiba nodded and smiled. I can understand that. I'm kinda the same way. You've seen me around the academy, only a couple people will even talk to me like a person. Shikamaru and Choji, they're good guys, and about as popular as I was before today. Naruto said and laughed. Let me make up for my big mouth. Mom keeps telling me I need to think before I talk, that's why I get a lot. Kiba said, put Akamaru down, walked over to Naruto and pulled her shirt off over her head and dropped it, then took the ointment out of her belt pouch. You can put it on for me. Kiba said nervously. Naruto looked at them, well stared is more accurate. Full, round, and from how they jiggled slightly, he figured soft and pretty bouncy, and her nipples were like 3 inches across and dark brown with fingertip-sized nubs. He smiled. They're really nice, and thanks. You sure you want me to do this? Naruto asked, and saw Kiba nod nervously, a small blush on her face. Naruto nodded, took the ointment, and a minute later was rubbing it into her full, soft, which he noticed she really enjoyed as much as Hinata liked hers played with, but Kiba was trying very hard to hide it in her slowly growing blush. Kiba was right about the ointment. By the time he finished rubbing it on her right, the cuts on her left where he'd started were gone, not even a red streak remained. When he finished he capped it and handed it back. Wow, that stuff really works great. Oh, yeah it does, but it's only for small scratches and scrapes, not bigger cuts or injuries, it works on animals too though. My sister Hannah makes it, she's a vet, that's an animal doctor. Kiba said. KY-chan yipped. Oh, right, I was wondering if there's anything you can teach us that isn't a clan secret. Naruto asked. Kiba slipped her shirt back on and walked back for her coat. Can you talk with KY-chan? Kiba asked. Yeah, we understand each other, she's really smart. Naruto said. That's really impressive for a wild animal, maybe she's from a clan that used to work with ninja, like our special dogs do, though I've never heard of any nin foxes it is possible. Kiba said as she zipped her coat up to how it usually was. I'm not sure, we could go back to the compound and ask Mom if I can teach you. My mom is Sum, she's head of the Inuzuka clan, I can't teach you anything without her permission, and she has to meet you first to check out you and KY-chan. Oh can't, I have plans tonight and tomorrow, How about the 25th when there's no classes? Naruto said. Okay. That's fine, and it'll give us a few days to get to know each other and build you up for mom. What are you doing later anyway? Kiba said. I'm having dinner with Hinata-chan and her family at 6. Naruto said. Kiba flinched. Oh shit. Do you have something nice to wear? I hate all that formal stuff, but I know from mom how strict Hiyashi is about rules and protocol. You show up dressed like that for dinner and you won't get past the main gate. Kiba said seriously. Really? Damn, Hinata didn't tell me that and I never thought to ask. I don't have anything nice, all my clothes are like this. Naruto said worried. I have an idea, there's a place a few blocks away that might help you. Come on, follow me. Kiba said then took off running with Akamaru. Naruto nodded, mentally told KY-chan to wait for him at his apartment, then ran after Kiba. 5:18 p.m., a few blocks away. Kiba stopped and looked at Naruto. Here we are. Naruto got nervous. Every store he's ever gone in to buy clothes either chased him out, or charged him triple the normal full price for bargain bin clothes, though he'd never gone in here, mainly because it was for shinobi only and he wasn't even that now, never mind 3 or 4 years ago. We can't go in there, we aren't even genin yet. Naruto said, planting his feet as Kiba tried to pull him. I can. Hana and mom come here once a week, the owner knows me, you'll be fine. Kiba said and pulled his arm again. Naruto didn't budge. She was amazed a kid 5 or 6 inches shorter than her, and skinny, was so strong. She thought a moment, force wasn't going to work, not to mention it might be unsafe for her to even try, then she smiled. If you were with Hinata and she wanted new clothes, would you follow her in? Of course I would, Naruto said without even thinking, slightly annoyed she'd even ask that, then saw her smiling like she'd just caught him doing something wrong, he knew the look. Naruto glared at her. You sneaky, that wasn't fair. Naruto said. He wanted to call her a bitch, but there were mothers and little kids around. Fine, I'll go in for Hinata, but you're paying. Naruto said and grumbled under his breath. Deal. Trust me, she'll help you. Hotaru loves new customers. Kiba said, then lead Naruto in. If she doesn't, I'll charm both of them and make him run through Konoha. Naruto thought with a brief smirk. 5:56 p.m., outside the Hyuga compound. He'd only been in there 20 minutes, but he was glad he was wrong about Hotaru. She was great, kinda like he imagined an aunt would be, and beautiful too. Plus, she had bigger tits than Hinata. He had just enough time to race home over the rooftops, take a quick shower, put on his new formal clothes, then race back across the rooftops and jump down into the street near the main gate to the Hyuga compound. He was glad he had so much chakra and didn't live too far away or he'd be sweaty right now. Running from Anko had actually done him good. He crossed the street, glad no one was around except the 2 guards outside the gate. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Hinata is expecting me for dinner. Naruto said politely and gave them a small bow. He knew it wasn't very good, he hated all that formal stuff, plus he had no training in it, but Hotaru had given him advice on how to act while she was helping him. The Hyuga in front of Naruto, like the other, was Cadet Branch. He'd seen the smile on Hinata's face earlier and heard from the other members how Hinata had been acting recently when no main branch members or her cousin were around. One moment, he said, unlocked the gate, slipped in and shut it behind him. Hey, are you why Hinata-sama is acting differently? The other Hyuga whispered just loud enough for Naruto to hear. Naruto looked at him and swallowed nervously. Hi, we're friends. Naruto said nervously. He really didn't want an entire clan mad at him. He glanced around briefly then smiled. Thank you. We've never seen Hinata-sama so happy. Don't let Hiyashi-sama intimidate you, and for Kami's sake be polite. He said then quickly snapped back into his guard pose. The gate opened and Naruto saw the first guard come back, and an older woman in a beige kimono was behind him. Please follow me, Uzumaki-san, she said. Naruto smiled. He'd never been referred to by a formal name before, and definitely never heard san behind his name. He kinda liked it. He followed the old woman through the gate and was awed by the front grounds. It was like a picture. There were gardens, several training areas, one of them in use, and even a small fountain in the large flower garden in front of the bigger house directly in front of him. Wow! This place is beautiful, Naruto said, then noticed the second building wasn't as nice and only had a small flower garden. He followed her to the door, then inside and down a long hall and into what looked like a waiting room or formal living room, he couldn't tell. He had a seat. Please wait here, Uzumaki-san, she said, gave him a small smile, then turned and left. 1 hour ago, Anbu headquarters . She was power walking her fingers through the files in the cabinet. Bingo. I really hope he likes this, she said excitedly, but slightly nervous, then pulled it out, went to the table and sat down to read. Now, residential district . She set the trigger on the trap, a big sadistic smile on her face. 6 down, 2 left. These are lucky I can't give 'em what they deserve for how they treated my Naruto-kun, but he'll appreciate this prank better than anyone, and best of all, there won't be any evidence pointing to him, she said, then headed for the window but stopped and glanced into the woman's bedroom and laughed. If you're going to do something, do it right the first time. Kurenai keeps telling me I go too far, so why stop now? She said, went into the woman's bedroom, carefully rummaged through her drawers until she found the bras and panties. Who knew torture techniques could be used for pranks? Me. 6:12 p.m., Hyuga compound, dining room . He hadn't had a formal meal before. Sitting on a pillow at a low table was weird, but at least it was comfortable. At least the pillow was. He'd been getting strange looks from Hiashi since he met him about 10 minutes ago. It wasn't hate or fear, those looks he'd know from 50 yards away. This was different, he just couldn't read him like he could most people. Plus, he was creepy as hell. Hinata's little sister Hanabi, but she was only 5, so he'd wait until she was older. She might even turn out like Hinata. For now she'd make a cool little sister, even if not by blood. Hinata's cousin Neji was a different story. She was polite enough, but she could give Ino and Sakura bitch lessons. She had a stick so far up her he'd swear he could see the end when she opened her mouth to talk or eat. He'd definitely have to charm her and yank that stick out. She was only a year older, but she was tall, had a small chest as best he could tell, though she was definitely bigger than Ino, he knew that, but at best she was a D cup, decent looks otherwise. Damn loose clothes they all wore made it hard to judge how big they were, with one exception, Hana Hyuga. Hinata was right about her. Even in the loose formal kimono they wore, it was obvious her were huge, even bigger than Hotaru's, not by much, but it was noticeable. She was at least a J cup, maybe 2 or 3 cups bigger. He was definitely gonna charm her before he left tonight. So what are your intentions toward my daughter Uzumaki? Hiashi asked emotionlessly. Naruto almost choked, but managed to swallow his food. We're just friends, she's very nice, Naruto said politely. Hana elbowed Hiashi. Hiashi-san, he's not proposing to her, they're just friends. I'm glad my lil Hina-chan finally has a friend, and he's cute too, Hana said, paused and looked closely at Naruto a moment, then smiled. I knew we'd met before. In the park, you and Hinata were for, I believe. She wouldn't let go of my kimono and hid behind my leg when you said hello to her. Hanabi stifled a giggle. That sounds like her, Hanabi said, then flinched slightly when Hana looked at her. Would it be okay if I sparred with one of you? Hinata told me a little about how you fight and what you can do. I'd like to see it, and if it's better than what they teach us at the academy. Naruto said calmly. Our gentle fist is far superior. Neji said arrogantly. Someone's panties are in a bunch, probably to leap that big stick in your butt. Naruto said with a smirk. Neji jumped to her feet, red-faced with anger. You arrogant little shit, I'll show you how. Neji. Hiashi commanded powerfully. Neji instantly froze and snapped to attention. Forgive me Hiashi-san. Neji said, then gave him a bow. I would like to give Hinata-sama's honored guest a personal demonstration of our skill after dinner, if he's up to the challenge. I'm always up for a challenge, and I never back down from anyone. Naruto said proudly. Naruto-kun, please. I don't want you to get hurt. Hinata said, obviously worried. That's fine with me, and I'll be the referee for the match to ensure no one is seriously injured, is that clear Neji? Hana said calmly, and gave Neji a serious glare at the end. Neji immediately nodded in agreement. Hi, Hana-sama. You have my word Naruto-san will walk home under his own power. How bruised and humiliated he is will be up to him. Neji said with a brief smirk. Deal. Naruto said, then smiled. I just hope you don't cry too hard when I yank that stick out of your butt and beat you with it. Naruto said with a big devious smile. Looked at Hinata and gave her a small nod. 6:45 p.m. Hyuga Front Grounds, sparring area ===. This will be taijutsu only, no weapons. Neji, no strikes to any vital areas. This will be 15 minutes, if you can last that long Naruto-san please take this seriously and do your best, Neji is the best fighter of her age group and a prodigy. Are you both ready? Hana said. Naruto nodded and took his version of the academy's taijutsu style. Hi. I'm always ready. Neji smirked. You're fated to lose little boy. Neji said in her normal tone, dropped into the gentle fist stance and activated her Byakugan. Hinata clutched Naruto's formal jacket she knew was new. Be careful Naruto-kun. Don't worry Hinata-chan. I won't hurt her too bad. Naruto said with a foxy smile. Hana glanced at Hinata, who suddenly didn't look worried or nervous in the slightest, and that no one else seemed to notice, but she knew they all saw Hinata as weak, only she could see Hinata's strength, it was just hidden beneath her shyness and big heart, she just didn't like to hurt anyone. Hinata's reaction to Naruto's comment sparked her curiosity, something was going on between them. What's going on between my daughter and your son Minato-kun? Hana thought. Begin, she said. Naruto was ready for her attack, until it happened. He blocked her initial strike with his arms, or thought he did until the pain ripped through his left arm, then felt a spike through his stomach that dropped his arms, and another spike through his chest sent him to the ground on his back. Pathetic. I've had better sparring matches with Hinata-sama, but it seems you're weaker than she is. You wasted my time, Neji said then turned and walked away. Naruto started laughing, hard. Neji froze, clenching her fists tight and spun around quickly, visibly upset. What's so funny? You didn't last 3 seconds. Was that it? I got beat worse than that when I was 5. Naruto said, laughing, then got back to his feet. I was just seeing what you could do, think you can do it again, bitch. Hinata gasped in surprise, except for the adults, Neji was the best fighter in the entire clan. She wasn't worried. She knew her Ka-san would step in if needed, but she'd never seen anyone stand up to Neji like that, even at the academy. If you want a full demonstration of the gentle fist, I'll gladly show you how weak you truly are and let you live with your total humiliation. Neji said then dropped back into her stance, her Byakugan still blazing. Naruto felt his chakra surge, especially in his arms, he knew from Hinata they could see it, so he wanted to save his special red chakra for the right moment. It'd give away he had a bloodline limit like they did, and knew they were using their Byakugan. I hope this works, I didn't use this much when I was running from Anko. I should have gotten some help from her, oh well it's too late now. Naruto thought. He readied himself and took his fighting stance. He watched her come in as fast as the first time, and like before he could just follow her. As she was about to strike he moved as fast as he could. Neji came in, threw her right hand at his chest and was shocked when he caught her wrist, then her left was grabbed, she looked into his eyes, saw them sparkle, then suddenly her mind was spinning and the next thing she knew she was on her knees and felt his hands squeezing her bare. She shocked herself further when she surrendered to him and begged him not to hurt her anymore. What both terrified and excited her the most, however, was that she actually wanted him to dominate her, and she had no idea why or how this had happened. The last few minutes were a blur. Hiashi and Hana were simply blown away by what just happened. Naruto smiled, released her, then tweaked her small but hard nipples. I was right, your AD cup. Impressive, and they're firm too. Neji blushed. She was excited, embarrassed, humiliated and confused as to how this happened. Hinata and Hanabi giggled like idiots, both unable to hold in their laughter. I'm glad I don't have yet. Hanabi exclaimed between laughs. Hana stepped closer, quickly picked up Neji's top, then tossed it over her bare chest and leaned close to Naruto. How did you do that to her? Hana asked. Naruto smiled slyly and looked into her eyes. Like this, Jugs. Naruto whispered to her just as his eyes sparkled. See, I told no one would be around this early. Come on, you'll love this. She said to her younger companion, then jumped down from the roof and led him inside the shop. She was putting new items in the display case built into the counter when she heard the door chime. She looked up and smiled, then her eyes got big as saucers when she saw who was with one of her favorite customers. She very quickly put away the last few items, then shut and locked the case, a big smile on her face. Welcome to the Wolf's Claw. I'm Tenten, the owner's daughter. How may I help you two this morning? Tenten said, subtly glancing at the blonde boy next to her. She knew his face, but couldn't think of his name. I had a run-in with Orange Boy recently. Little brat actually impressed me, he's tougher than he looks. Found out he's an orphan like me, gets robbed a lot, so I'm gonna buy him a weapon and show him how to use it. He may be a pain in the to most of Konoha, but so am I. Don't go thinking we're friends, Naruto, you still owe me for the dango you made me drop. I still think I should kick you for that, but you've got more guts than brains and I like that. Oh, and Tenten, this stays between us for now, I don't want word getting around I bought the brat something, can't have everyone thinking I've gone soft. Anko said with her usual expression, her real feelings for Naruto hidden. Tenten swallowed and nodded. Hi Anko-san, Tenten said, then looked at the blonde boy again, a little sympathy in her eyes. She had no idea his life was so hard. She smiled a little at how he was looking at all the shiny new weapons in awe. So what did you have in mind, Anko-san? If you'd rather wait for him, Dad will be back in about 20 minutes. No, take a look around, brat, see if anything jumps out at you. Don't take too long, I don't want Aruka on my for making you late. How he can spend all day around you brats, no offense Tenten, is beyond me. Great guy, but he really needs to loosen up. Anko said, then laughed. Checking out all weapons for something that he liked, Naruto couldn't help but think back to yesterday at Hinata's after he somehow beat Neji. That made him smile. Even if it had been a little close, if Hana hadn't helped him with Hiashi, he might have had to tell them why he had those two small surges of chakra around his eyes. He'd also owed KY-chan for coming up with the lie he gave Hiashi about how he'd grown up on the street and had to have sharp eyes to help him survive, and that he figured out how to improve his eyesight and reflexes with his chakra, which is how he beat Neji, and it made him sound like a natural shinobi being able to mold chakra that well so early. That wasn't as bad as Hiashi's reaction to how he beat Neji. He wasn't polite with his comments and accusations about his lack of honor and other stuff, but Hana stepped in and saved him again by reminding that stuffed jerk that there were no rules in a fight, and even in the Chunin exams there was no rule against stripping your opponent, even if against a kunoichi, or any rule that said you couldn't use a kunoichis, or any other part of body against her, even if it was. He loved the look of frustration on Hiashi's face because he couldn't counter her argument, though he didn't ask it because Hiashi could literally kill him with a single touch, but did wonder if they knew about KY-chan like Enko did. He'd forgotten to ask Enko how she knew and if there was more about KY-chan, which he'd mentioned to KY-chan last night. She got really nervous and told him she'd tell him soon. He could wait a little longer. She'd never lied to him and helped him any time he needed it. Who or whatever KY-chan was, she was part of him. It wasn't like she could leave him. Tell me something, Tenten. What do you think of Naruto? Be honest. I can tell you don't hate him. I saw it on your face the instant we came in. I know hate and fear when I see them, and you don't have either. Anko said quietly. Tenten nodded, and she knew from how Anko asked she didn't want Naruto to hear, she'd do the same. To be honest, I never really paid much attention to him except when he really acted up in class. Until the other day anyway. Do you know what happened at Academy recently? She asked, and Anko nodded. He's dating Hinata Hyuga. I think they are, and he's getting really popular, especially with the other girls, even the popular girls like Ino Yamanaka and Sakura Haruno, which is weird considering what Hinata did to them. He is kinda cute, I guess, in a goofy kind of way, but I never cared about being popular or pretty for the boys or what people thought about me. I just want to be the best kunoichi I can be. Tenten said quietly, then got nervous for a moment. There's one other thing. I've always preferred to just say what was on my mind, so here it is. After the incident with Ino and Sakura, I watched him whenever I could. He's short like me, but he doesn't seem to be afraid of anything or anyone, even Sasuke Uchiha. I don't want to sound like some fangirl, but I really admire him for his courage and attitude. Nothing bothers him. Anko smiled. He doesn't have many friends. Would you like to be one of them? Yes, I would. I don't have any friends my age, but that didn't matter. I was waiting until I was assigned to a team. I must admit that he does have a certain charming quality I like, kinda like a new weapon. Tenten said with a slight blush she didn't notice she had. She'll be good for him, and a big help once he graduates. I hope Naruto-kun knows to charm her like he did me. Anko thought, glad he'd told her about his ability, and proud to be the first person he'd intentionally charmed. Sure, she was his slave, but she really enjoyed it. He made her happy, and that was a feeling she hadn't really felt before. Go talk to him, tell him how you feel. I know he'll like you as much as I do. Anko said. Tenten nodded and walked around the counter and across the room toward the back where Naruto was. She didn't notice Anko slip her right hand under her skirt to finger her bare. She hadn't worn panties since Naruto took them from her as a trophy. Naruto was looking at a couple katanas and various other swords while mentally talking to KY-chan. He liked the katanas, but she kept telling him they just weren't suited to his style. He turned toward Tenten when he saw her coming out of the corner of his eye. Did you find anything you like yet? Tenten asked. I like the katanas, but I don't think they're right for me. Naruto said. I agree. I don't think a big blade is a good idea for shinobi our size. Tenten said and smiled playfully. That joke was her way of making friends. Naruto laughed. I think a wakizashi would work for you. If you want, you can come by after academy today and I'll help pick one out for you, or you can order a custom one, which is the way to go in my opinion. I think you're kinda weird, but in a fun way, and I'd like to be friends. I don't have any at the academy. Tenten said calmly, despite being slightly nervous. Naruto subtly glanced in Anko's direction and saw her through an opening between the weapon racks, and what she was doing. He knew she'd sent her to him. Her reaction after he'd told her what he could do, which KY-chan confirmed, told him she was like him under all her toughness. He looked into Tenten's eyes, and gave her what he'd named, the look. He just found it easier to use his ability if he was smiling. He saw the sparkle in her eyes and knew it worked. It was getting easier to do. I'd love to be your friend. Tenten, right, he said, and she nodded. I'd love to, but Anko is going to start training me today. We can stop by and order a custom wakizashi. Having my own weapon would be really cool. You know, Tenten, You're really cute. Naruto said and paused briefly as KY-chan gave him some advice to help him with women he hadn't charmed yet, but he could use anytime. He gently put his left hand on her shoulder and brushed her left cheek softly with the back of his right hand and fingers before resting it on her other shoulder, a small charming smile on his face. What I really want from you isn't for sale. I want you, Tenten. I want to make you one of my special lady friends right here, right now. Hinata was first, would you like to be second? Naruto said in as smooth and charming a voice as he could, not that he needed to, but he wanted to practice on her. Please say yes, Ten-chan. Naruto said as he leaned in and gave her a short, soft kiss on the lips as his right down her chest to her small, palming it. Tenten smiled happily as she blushed bright red. Yes. But I don't want Dad to catch us, so we only have about 10 minutes, is that okay? Naruto smiled. Plenty of time, Naruto said, and following some advice from KY-chan, he pulled down Tenten's pants and panties, which she quickly stepped out of, then he leaned her against the wall, pulled his pants and boxers down to his knees, smiling when Tenten gasped as he quickly got hard. Hooking his right hand under her left knee, he lifted her leg up high, spreading her wide, and slipped about 4 inches into her, slowly rocking his hips back and forth, which she matched as she moaned through her clenched teeth and lips obviously to minimize the noise. He did this for a couple minutes until she loosened up a little, but not much. She was a lot tighter than Hinata, but then she is smaller than Hinata. When he felt she was wet enough, according to what KY-chan had told him and his experience with Hinata, he asked, "Are you ready, Ten-chan?" Tenten moaned in ecstasy. "Oh Kami, yes. Take me now, Naruto-kun." Tenten said a little louder than she intended. Naruto moved closer as he pushed almost 5 more inches inside her, which nearly made her scream. He saw her bite her bottom lip hard to keep from screaming like Hinata had when he took her virginity. Shit. I better have Anko teach him some sound seals. I can't have his new women screaming their heads off and alerting everyone around when he does this. Kyuubi said to herself. Naruto pounded Tenten hard like he had Hinata. He wanted to do more, but the place and time he had didn't allow that. Next time he'd do this right. He noticed the weapons on the wall were probably digging into her back, but she didn't seem to mind. In fact, she seemed to actually like it. What he loved though, is how tight she was. Tenten had a small chest, a B cup he figured based on the motion beneath her shirt holding her tightly. He backed up a step without missing a stroke and lifted her off the floor. She was much lighter than Hinata too. He could come up with some really fun positions to use with her. Another minute of that and he could tell she was about to blow, and so was he. Naruto waited until the last moment, then lurched forward and basically slammed her into the wall of weapons as they both exploded together. He had to clench his jaw when she clamped down hard on him. It was a little painful, but at the moment it felt incredible. He knew he was shaking some, but Tenten was almost vibrating for almost 10 seconds, then she collapsed forward into his arms. He released his other grips and caught her. He just stood there a minute enjoying the moment before she moved again. Oh Naruto-kun, that was, just, wow. I know that wasn't your first time, but, was I good? Tenten asked softly. Oh yes, for your first time Ten-chan, you were awesome. And you're really tight too, which made it even better. I really don't want to, but we better get cleaned up and dressed. I really don't want your dad mad at me. He has more weapons than 3 ninjas. Naruto said playfully and smiled, though he was serious. I also have to walk Hinata to academy, so I have to leave in about 10 minutes. If your dad doesn't mind, would you like to join us? I'd love to walk 2 cute girls to academy. Naruto said. Tenten smiled. I'd love to. I don't think dad will mind, especially if Anko-san vouches for you. Tenten said. 7:47 a.m. Academy main gate . Naruto walked through the open gate into the front grounds. On his right his girlfriend Hinata, to his left the newest member of his harem, Tenten. Before he got 5 feet he noticed everyone turned to look at him, The guys looked either impressed or jealous, except Sasuke, who looked mad because he was the center of attention now. That alone made bigger and put his arms around his girls 15 feet in. He stopped when he saw them coming. "Good morning, Naruto-kun," they said happily in unison. "Morning, Ino-chan, Sakura-chan. I love your clothes, you both look great." "Don't you think so, Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan?" Naruto said. "Hi, I wish I could wear clothes like that, but Dad won't let me, and Mom would go ballistic." "Trust me, you never want to see my mom mad. She has better aim than I do, and I can hit a bullseye at 50 yards in a strong wind." Tenten said. "My dad would do worse if I tried to wear clothes like that. He thinks I should represent the proud Hyuga clan with dignity at all times and not dress like a." Hinata said and paused nervously. She'd promised Naruto she'd be nice to Sakura and Ino and be friends. "Don't worry, Hinata, I'm not offended. Mom thinks I look great. Dad wasn't too thrilled, but he trusts me." Ino said. "I wish my dad trusted me. Most of my clan think I'm weak. Now that I have Naruto-kun to believe in me, I'll show them I'm not." Hinata said. Naruto released Hinata and Tenten so Sakura and Ino could hug Hinata. He took a closer look at Ino and Sakura. Ino had the same short skirt on, but it was slit up both sides and her legs weren't bandaged. She had a new shirt on. It was a crop top, but a 4 inches vertical strip between her small had been replaced by an armored mesh. Sakura as wearing black mini shorts and a red sleeveless with a 4 inches circle in the chest replaced by armored mesh, as was the lower half, which exposed her stomach and lower back. It was obvious neither had anything on under their shirts. "We have about 5 minutes before the first bell. Let's go sit in the shade and talk about the fun we're going to have later," Naruto said and gave them a perverted smile they all immediately understood. Ino and Sakura blushed. == 8:01 a.m. Homeroom == Ino Yamanaka, Uruka said. "Here." Ino said. This is when the door opened and she walked in. The whole class went silent as she walked over to Uruka and said something to him. Uruka frowned and looked, well, glared is more accurate, at him. "Naruto Uzumaki, Hokage-sama wants to see you right now. Get your things and come down here. You'll be escorted directly to his office by Kurenai Uehi, and you will obey her," Uruka said sternly. For once Naruto was actually worried. When the old man sent someone for him, it was because he'd pulled some prank, but this time he didn't know what it was about. He picked up his pack of books, then went down to the floor, turning toward the class. "Bye everyone, it was nice knowing you," Naruto said with an "I'm about to die" sad face. He had to get a final little joke in before he went to whatever awaited him. When most of the girls in class pouted sadly and waved, he gave them a small smile. Kurenai smirked, very amused by the scene. "Come on, it isn't polite to keep Hokage-sama waiting," Kurenai said, then put her right hand on his left shoulder and led him out of the classroom. "But I didn't do anything," Naruto exclaimed as he left the room. Out in the hallway he dropped his usual class clown act as he walked with her toward the front of the academy. "So what's the old man want to see me for? As if you didn't know. What you did to those women wasn't very nice. I thought you were better than that," Kurenai said calmly. Naruto just pouted. He had no idea what she was talking about, but he had noticed her great figure hidden beneath her clothes. KY-chan and Hinata had shown him how to spot a hider, as he'd called them. She wasn't as big as Hinata, but still quite impressive. 8:08 a.m., Hokage's office. Naruto followed her into the old man's office and scanned the room. There's the old man. Anko-chan is here too, cool, Naruto thought. He stopped in front of the desk. "Hey, what did you want to see me about?" he asked, trying to be cool, and he was until the old man leveled a glare at him that made him very nervous. He knew that look and didn't like it. "I'll ask you once, Naruto, did you prank those women yesterday afternoon? Just tell me the truth, and if you did, I'll go easy on you," Sarutobi asked in a calm but stern, serious voice. As much as I love a good prank, I don't know what you're talking about. I was with friends all afternoon yesterday. I didn't do it this time. Naruto said sincerely. Sarutobi raised his eyebrows slightly. He could read Naruto like a book. He's either gotten very good at lying, or he didn't do it. Sarutobi thought. Then tell me where you were and who you were with between 5 and 6 yesterday afternoon. I was having dinner with Hinata Hyuga and her family. Naruto said right away. I believe you. Sarutobi said, knowing that if Naruto was with them his excuse was ironclad. What was the prank anyway? Naruto asked curiously. It'll be all over Konoha soon anyway, you might as well tell him. Besides, no one got hurt, and just between us, I think what happened to them was damn funny. I'd shake their hand before I arrested whoever did it. Anko said with a big smile and glanced at Naruto. Several women were covered in bright orange paint that'll take a week to get rid of, and the rest had itching powder put in their clothes. Sarutobi. He means their bras and panties, he just can't say it. Anko said then broke out laughing. Kurenai sighed and shook her head. You would find that funny, Anko. Kurenai said then her eyes twitched subtly. Oh Kami, please tell me she didn't do this for Naruto. According to their files the only thing all those women have in common is Naruto. It had to be Anko, she lives for revenge, the only thing I don't understand, is why she did it. You owe me for this Anko-chan. Kurenai thought and glanced at her best friend. If Naruto isn't responsible I'll take him back to the academy, with your permission Hokage-sama. Sarutobi nodded. Dismissed. Come on Anko, after I drop him off we need to talk. Kurenai said and led Naruto out, followed by Anko who was still laughing. 4 minutes later, Hokage Tower, empty room . Her dress. Mesh shirt and panties on the floor, her bare button back against the wall. Down on her left knee out to the side, her right was extended the other way, leg bent, foot down, leaving her spread wide. Her full black bush covered her mound above her large, smooth lips that currently were stretched around the biggest she'd ever seen, much less had most of buried inside her and filling her in a way no man ever had before as he pumped her hot sopping hard and fast while viciously squeezing her full F-cup just how she liked, practically mauling them. It had only been 2 minutes but she was already on the edge of the most intense orgasm of her life. You're ready to come, aren't you curry cunt? He said. Oh Kami yes Naruto-sama. Let me come, please. Kurenai begged, her mind barely able to focus. Do you love me? Naruto asked forcefully. Yes. With all my heart and soul. Kurenai half yelled, drawing out the final word as her emotions and hormones began to overpower her. Come with me, Naruto yelled, not worried he'd be heard because she'd put a sound seal on the room. A moment later both of them exploded. 2 in 1 morning, now that's how to start a day. Naruto thought as he caught his breath and felt his strength returning. 10 minutes later he walked into class with a big smile on his face. In another part of town Anko was walking with Kurenai to their favorite restaurant for a celebration breakfast to discuss the new man in their lives. X.